Welcome to Chat-Athon, Anita and Harsha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to be politically incorrect. Instead of asking the lady the question first, I'm going to ask the gent. Since we're all about breaking stereotypes today, I'm going to ask the gent the first question.
Normally he asks the question, so today he is
Exactly. So there's one more big stereotype which is being broken. So, I mean, you know, ever so often we say behind every successful man is a woman. And I saw a very interesting clip where you put a big question mark on that notion. Can you elaborate, Harsha, on that?
It is nonsense. Of course it is nonsense. I can understand 100 years ago if people were saying behind every man is a woman, because then the objective was honorable. Now it's almost like saying, yeah, you know, she's there somewhere. But I was very lucky that I grew up surrounded by some very powerful, very astute, but also very intelligent women. Both my grandmothers had difficult lives, but they managed them with great aplomb. My life changed after my mother started working. And I saw my sister does remarkable work. She's an amazing woman. And I married this girl who's accomplished in almost every respect that I could dream of. So where is the question of one in front, one at the back? I mean, if anybody says that today, it's always he. If she says that, then she's got a problem bigger than she realizes. But if he says that, he's about 50 years behind time minimum. Minimum.
That's great.
I mean, they think it's a nice thing to say, but they don't realize that when you say behind every man is a woman, you're creating a class system of the sexes in India. And it's peculiar, actually. If you see, even in sport, some of the biggest successes are coming from India's women, right?
Exactly.
As it turns out, they're all from Hyderabad, but that's a separate story.
And still they are fighting for equal rights. So
yep.
I'm sure the time will come when people will realize that women are just as good as men and not in the supporting role.
I hope we're not going backward as a country. Or sometimes I think in our public discourse in India, we tend to go we're going a little backward. I hope that changes.
What do you mean by that? I mean, just to
I don't know. You see the general level of public discourse and the manner in which women are talked about now. That pains me.
Yeah. So, I mean, coming back to the time when you decided to give up your well-heeled career, obviously...
I don't know how well-heeled it was, Santosh,
I mean,
but it feels nice that you say
both of you from IIMA, and then one of you chooses to drop the corporate career and actually move into cricket, and that too into cricket commentary, which is such a unknown territory. How did you guys actually come to that decision? I mean, I know both of you were married then, but did you have several chats about it, and then did you discuss over dinner and say, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to quit and I'm going to leave and join cricket? How did it happen? I'm very curious.
You know, actually, we've been asked this question many times. And it wasn't as risky a decision as people think it was. You know, when we started work, the two of us together weren't even earning 5,000 rupees. 1985, okay? We didn't. So it wasn't that big. I mean, the downside wasn't really great. One person had the job, and we are simple people with simple needs, even today. So it didn't seem very risky. We had a home to live in South Mumbai, which was low rent, so nothing really going out of pocket. So, so my parents had the home, and they kind of graciously allowed us to live there. So that was taken care of, because a lot of times, you know, people get tied down to the jobs because they need a home, you know, and we didn't have any of those. We didn't have too many responsibilities. So we were, I think, very privileged and very fortunate to be in that situation.
A lot of the times, you are constrained by the house someone is paying for you, and so you can't move jobs, because otherwise, where do you live in? And in Mumbai, if between the two of you, you're earning 5,500 rupees a month, then there's not a lot going anyway. So luckily for us, we had a house. I didn't realize at the time, but I got married, packed my bag, and moved in. So that was very handy. So it wasn't a huge risk, but one of the big advantages of having a very good degree behind you is that you know if things go bad, you will always get a job.
Yeah.
So I knew that I could always go back to advertising whenever I wanted to. I had worked for 2.5 years in client servicing in what was then a very rigorous advertising agency. I'd learned all aspects of advertising. I'd learned creative. I'd learned media planning, media ops as well, billing. which is the heart and soul of all advertising. So I knew I could go back. So it wasn't. A lot of people like to, or rather hope that it was a dramatic story. It actually wasn't. So I keep telling a lot of young people getting into the workforce these days, you focus a lot on your jobs, focus on marrying the right girl.
That's a very interesting.
So you don't know whether she's right or no, but you can try.
You know, it's also just one of the things I learned from doing some research was that sometimes when you just started doing commentary and you would be leaving home to do an errand, you would jokingly tell Anita, if BBC calls, tell them I'll be back.
Almost in that tone of voice, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this must have been 87 to 89 types.
But then, just to complete the question, you know, now when you look at it, BBC, ABC, CNBC, every BC has been calling you. So, I mean, it's like a dream come true, isn't it, Harsha? I mean, it's fantastic.
Luckily, it's an English program, so you can say what you just said. But that's okay. But yeah, I mean, it turned out that way.
But yeah, I guess he was always a dreamer. And so even when we were in Ahmedabad, he had done 2 matches, I think. 2 matches. So it was always there, you know. And people said that I would never be the first love. That, of course, is still being debated.
No.
But the funny thing was, you know, when he would say this, I mean, he would be going down to buy some medicine or bread or something like that. And he'd be gone only for about 10 minutes, but he'd say that with a flourish. You know, if the BBC calls, just tell them I'll be right back. And then, not quite BBC, but I think Asif called, right? And tell them the Asif story.
I got this call, so I'm picking it up, and it said, Harsha, hi, this is Asif. And I said, hello. And then he said, you know, we're having this tournament in Sharjah. We'd be very happy if you come to do commentary. And as always happens, he says, we don't have a huge budget, but we look after you well, which is what everyone tells me anyway. But he said, we look after you well and all that. And I have no clue who this Asif who has called me is. And then, like they show in the movies, you suddenly say, oh. And I just covered and said, I think this is Asif Iqbal calling me to do commentary in Sharjah. And I'm trying to say, okay, don't sound too excited, okay? And just pretend to be normal, you know, like, yeah, I was expecting the call type. But yeah, that actually did happen. And he called me and said, you come to Sharjah. And I went to Sharjah, believing that I would never, ever travel abroad ever again in my life.
Sure.
I brought back cans of Pepsi.
In those days, you didn't get cans.
You didn't get in India. So I said, how will my family know what you get abroad?
Yeah. Sure.
I bought jeans because you go to Dubai and you might get imported jeans, whereas you don't in India. So I bought a suitcase there to get back to India. I was convinced I'd never ever travel abroad again. But it happened. Yeah, it happened.
So that was the beginning.
Sometimes it does happen.
I mean,
Doesn't always, but sometimes it does.
One of the things you've said in some of your presentations earlier is that, you know, I could very well look at you now and say, hey, you know how lucky you've been, Harsha, or how lucky you've been, Anita. But you always say that you took a few steps which actually made that luck happen. You know, you always say it in the context of your IIMA story, but you know, where does luck start and where does the action to make that luck happen end?
I think everyone gets a knock at the door that brings good luck with it. I don't know if everybody can recognize the knock on the door as good luck.
Yeah.
And therefore take maximum advantage of it. And sometimes we don't recognize that knock and spend the rest of our lives thinking we were discriminated against. What's the most common word for that? There's politics that's against me. Because we didn't recognize the knock on the door that actually did come and we let it go.
Yeah.
But we were all lucky. I mean, let's be honest.
Part of it was being in the right place at the right time. And being young at that time.
Sure.
When you were like, you know, not thinking about too many things and risk and stuff like that. You didn't think about such things.
It's much easier to fail when you're young. And so it was okay to take a chance when you're young. But yeah, luck did happen. Going to IIM Ahmedabad was the luckiest break I could ever have had, because I don't think I had the intellectual prowess to belong in that company. But I think I had a very interesting background. I had played cricket for my university. I had studied French up to senior diploma, advanced diploma level, which was almost like a BA. I had acted as an interpreter at a chemical engineering trade fair. I had written articles on cricket. I was doing commentary. And in Hyderabad, it's not difficult to get a decent rank in an engineering college. So I had a decent rank there as well. So maybe it was an interesting degree. But to get in there when I didn't get an interview call and we had to go around telling people, go around and check if your name is on the interview list, that's a long story in itself. But yeah, once you get that lucky break, then it's what you do with the break that matters. Otherwise, it's not a lucky break, is it?
Sure.
So you can get a lucky break, but if you don't take advantage of it, you can get picked to play for India, but if you then don't score the runs or take the wickets, then you've not used the opportunity that's come your way. And then you can go around the rest of your life saying, I was not lucky. So once you get that lucky break, it's what you do with the lucky break that matters. So I often tell people, listen, there's a lot of very talented people out there who are better than me, but can you work your backside off as much as I did? And if you can, good luck to you. So I think it's what you do with the break that you get that matters. And we were very, very lucky we got our breaks.
But it wasn't luck alone, right, Anita? I mean, you sacrificed a lot, didn't you? I mean, in the sense that, I know you basically did your IMA, you were a quant person, but given what Harsha was doing and pursuing his dreams, you went and did qual.
Yeah.
I must tell you about her quant.
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I must tell you about her quant.
And I also know you used to take little Chinmay, who's your son, and take him for the groups, and he used to be sleeping in one room while you were doing. So it's not just luck, there is sacrifice, and there is sacrifice that you did. In a sense, when he chose to go for commentary, you chose to do the sacrifices, right? As well?
Santosh, I wouldn't use the word sacrifice really.
Okay.
Because I think I did what was best for the family unit. And we've also enjoyed his success, the benefits of his success. So I wouldn't say it was a sacrifice. I'd probably call it a compromise professionally. Yes. And yes, I was a quant person, MSc statistics, and today what I do is soft skills. So it's really a 180-degree kind of a turn. But there were a lot of constraints. It's not easy to be a commentator. And it's definitely not easy to be a commentator's wife, especially when you are bringing up children and you have a career and all that. The difference is that, when cricketers travel and their career starts early, and so they're young, so unmarried or recently married or without kids, and so they have a good time traveling the world. When his career took off, really, in 92, 93, both our kids were born. So it wasn't so easy for me. There were many things I couldn't do. So I had a job in advertising, like you know. I was already head of the department, but I couldn't travel too much.
Yes.
There were many things, I couldn't work late. So there were many things I couldn't do. But like he said, there are many things that you can do as well. And in fact, one of the things we talk about in The Winning Way is we say that don't let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do. Which is a very powerful thought, because a lot of people make excuses, and it's very convenient to do that and say, anyway he's earning and anyway he's this thing, I can sit back and enjoy. But I wasn't like that at all.
Sure.
And that is what both of us have believed, that, let's look at the positives and let's see what we can do. So I worked out of home for a long time. I worked flexi hours for many years. And that's how we worked on it. But I got an interesting opportunity to do something different.
We talk about quant. The big difference between the two of us, I did engineering, right? So I'm supposed to be decent quant. If she lost 2 marks in a maths exam, she would come home almost in tears. And I told her I lose those in the first 5 minutes. So what are you complaining about? But it's interesting that if you're willing to embrace what life throws at you, then you can move from being a quant person to a qualitative researcher. You can go from qualitative researcher to heading account planning in an ad agency. And you can go from there to set up a path-breaking a corporate speaking program in sport.
Yeah.
But if you're open-minded about whatever comes your way, she said most people give excuses. One of the things sport has taught me is that the champions never give an excuse. The moment you give an excuse, you're searching to find a reason for your failure outside yourself. You have failed, but you're trying to find a reason for somewhere else because you don't want to convince yourself that you have failed. So you want to tell a convenient story. Champions never give excuses. So you say, okay, this is the cards that have come my way. What is the best I can do with the cards that I've been dealt? And so that is probably what is making your luck. When you're dealt cards in a game, that is luck. What you do with the cards is what you do. So why is it that in a game of bridge, for example, everyone's dealt the same cards, but why do some people make more tricks than the others? Because they know what to do with their cards better.
It's great. While I don't know if you know, you were just saying 92, 93 when your kids were just born. There's a very interesting clip I have of something that happened to Harsha in 92, 93. I don't even know whether you know this. So let's share the clip.
Very unlikely she doesn't know.
So let's share that clip.
Stats, there's so many stats in cricket in this World Cup. You see them pop up all the time. So I've got an interesting stat for you. In 1992, you were voted as the sexiest voice on Australian radio.
I don't know if it was a vote, but it was a ring. I don't know. All I know is there's a lady who wrote it.
Really?
And nobody had ever, and sadly thereafter nobody has ever, used that adjective about me.
Really?
Whether it's the voice or whatever. So I've got a clipping of that back home and I look at it from time to time to see if it's for real.
Are you
Susan Kurosawa?
Ah, Susan Kurosawa, who was the writer.
I've been trying to meet her ever since.
Australia.
You hadn't seen it.
Exactly, I thought
I
as
don't
well.
mind.
Now, you know what's interesting? Yeah, Harsha, you want to say something?
Go on.
No, you know what is interesting is that when I do research on what you became in Australia, there's again an interesting story there, right? I mean, in terms of how you went about getting that Australian break. I mean, and at the end of it, I don't know how many people know how much they revere you in Australia in terms of your cricket, in terms of your commentary, and of course, being the sexiest voice in Australia, which is no mean task, I would say.
Sexiest voice on radio, because they could not find anything else to assign that adjective to. But I think they found the accent very different.
Yep.
Australia used to be a pretty closed country. And so they didn't have too many overseas accents there. They didn't know what an Indian accent sounded like. The first time I went to Australia, they said, so where did you learn your English? And I said, there's more people speaking English in India than Australia will have in the next 100 years. So we are a pretty decent English-speaking country. We learn English in our country. But they knew very little. So suddenly there's this curiosity. There's this guy who's an English commentator who's giving the Aussies as good as he gets, because that's what the Aussies respect in you. If you don't give as good as you get, they don't respect you.
Yep.
So if you fight back at them, they actually like it. Then they give you a lot more respect. So I found that if I gave back, the more I gave back, the more friends I made in Australia. And radio is just the most beautiful medium in the world. So I enjoyed it. I'm hoping to go back next year and do radio in Australia.
It's amazing how many people in Australia listen to radio. Last year we were there and we had gone to a mall and we were buying ice cream. And the guy looks at him and says, "You're the guy, Indian guy on radio, aren't you, covering the cricket?" So they just recognize the voice. And
I've always been told I have a great face for radio. But yeah, it works. Radio is a wonderful, nice, chatty medium. So that worked. But going to Australia in itself was a story. I mean, I wanted to do commentary on the BBC and I didn't know anybody there. And then there's a friend of mine who used to do work on Radio Australia, occasionally do little clippings. So I got a name from her and I faxed a letter to him. Fax in those days, by the way, was not very prevalent. We didn't have a fax at home. There was what was called a business center. I don't know if anyone remembers business centers. So you went to the business center and you faxed from there. If the reply came, the guy from the business center called you and said, "Reply aaya hai." Then you go there and you pick up and he charged you for receiving the fax. So I sent a fax. I got a reply saying that we are Radio Australia, we are the overseas broadcasting arm, but ABC Radio does the domestic cricket. This is the person to write to. And then that person then replied to me saying, we've not seen your work. We've not heard your work. And we are very particular with the quality that goes out on ABC Radio. So I had to send them a commentary clip. Where do I get my own commentary clip? Luckily, my father had recorded some of the radio commentary that I had done. He also kept clippings of all the scores of mine when I was playing university cricket. Now, how do you send that? Because that's on a cassette, right? But that's the only cassette I have. So in those days, one of our clients actually at Rediffusion was Bush. And Bush used to make these dual cassette deck players.
Yes.
And that was the ultimate luxury. VCRs and all were far in the distance. So if you had a double cassette deck player, you could transfer from one cassette to the other. So we had a blank cassette at home, transferred commentary from that cassette, copied it from that onto this, and I said, now I will courier this to Australia, until I discovered the cost of couriering it. And I came back and said, "Ye to nahi ban raha bhai." So I sent it by registered post.
you didn't have all these couriers at that time. It was just
couriers were
these
very expensive. So I sent it by registered post with rubber bands put around the cassette. I wrote a letter saying our style is very different. you might wonder why there's no other voice, or explain how Indian commentary is different. And I put rubber bands around that, then put an envelope around it. Has anyone ever tried to write an address on something that's got rubber bands on the inside? Then you have to write the address in the space between the rubber bands. So yeah, it was a fun story. But the cassette did reach there. They did watch it. They said, we'll give you an opportunity, but we won't pay you anything because you're the overseas commentator. You got to fund yourself.
Yeah.
We are a government. But one thing led to the other, yeah.
Yeah, but it's been amazing, right? I mean,
it is a love story, yeah.
And you seem to love Australia as a country.
I'm now formally a friend of Australia for Australian tourism. It made a lot of news recently when Parinidhi Chopra was appointed. So as you can see, I don't have what Parinidhi Chopra has, but it's good fun, yeah. I've enjoyed being that. I've seen a lot of Australia as a result. I've got to meet some wonderful people in Australia. And I like their way of life, which is being absolutely upfront, telling it as it is. And it's fine to have an argument. It's fine to disagree violently with each other. And you still have a meal together at the end. Isn't that a lovely way to live? Rather than calling each other all kinds of names and being violent with each other. I mean, I might have a violent argument with you about something. I might call you names and say you don't understand whatever. And once the argument is done, we go out and have a meal. It's a lovely way to live.
You know, there's one thing that Australia brings to the table as far as cricket is concerned, which is not really a very savory thing, which is sledging. I mean, I've been reading about all the metaphors you have from sport and management. And if I were to take the metaphor of sledging and look at sledging as an aspect of cricket, it's very obvious to me as a person following cricket that one of the weapons in the arsenal that the Aussies have is sledging. They use it in games, and from whatever I understand from the reading I've done, they actually go and do a full analysis of how I'm going to sledge each player. So how would you translate that aspect of the game, which to me is unsavory, in the context of the corporate world? And how does a corporate organization use sledging as strategy with competitors? I mean, it's something interesting.
I'll tell you the cricket bit. She'll tell you the more intelligent corporate bit.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the cricket bit. Everybody sledges. There's a nice point of view that Indian cricketers are nice mama's boys. They go back home, they're respectful, they touch the feet of their elders. When the overseas people come, they say, "Ji, pani chahiye aapko," before they come to bat. Main chai le aun. Everybody sledges. We are no less than anybody else. The English sledge, the only people who do not sledge, it's part of their culture, the West Indies. Ian Bishop recently told me sledging is reprehensible. And Andy Roberts said, I never ever spoke a word to a batsman because if my eyes couldn't say what I wanted to say, there was no point me using words. And Gavaskar once said to me, he said, I challenge you to see a West Indies fast bowler use his eyes at you and then bravely go out to bat again. But the reason they sledge is the objective of a sport is to find a weakness in the opponent and then to exploit that weakness to get him or her out. Weaknesses can be in terms of technique. Does he play the outswinger well? No? Okay, I'll bowl him the outswinger. Does he edge bat pad to short leg of the off spinner? I'll bowl that ball to him. Does he get angry? If he gets angry, he's not playing me with his brains, he's playing me with his ego. Gee, there's a way of getting him out. So can I make him angry then? Is he very sensitive? Is he very touchy? Is that a character weakness? Can I exploit the character weakness to get him out? And I think there is now largely understood, and some people do cross the line, which is terrible. I hate sledging because they get personal. There's a lot of sexual innuendo. There's a lot of all that nonsense that goes around. And I think basically, I've always said sledging is cowardly. But the reason people sledge is they want to find a weakness in you. And once they found that weakness could be of any kind. So, one of the things we talk about in the winning way as well is an angry opponent is the easiest opponent to counter. If you are calm and your opponent is angry, it's a no contest, right? So, can I make my opponent angry? Corporates do that as well. Sure, advertising agencies do that.
Yeah,
there is a more respectable name for it. They call it mental disintegration. So basically you pick a fight so that, you get into this argument, and there's so much posturing anyway, even in corporates, isn't there? In advertising you have sledging.
Sure.
They're taking on competitors' brands.
Sure.
And typically in sledging they kind of go for the leader.
Yeah.
Right? Because they want to upset the leader. And similar things happen even in corporate life. If you look at the media and what happens it's about the same thing. So we're not as good as we make ourselves out to be. This
But
happens
then-
everywhere.
But then the Aussies started it. I mean, they've made it into an art. They made it into a fine art compared to, I mean, yes, I'm sure everybody else follows suit and there are some people who do it better. But having a manual about each player and saying, this is how I'm going to approach Virat Kohli this tournament,
While I don't
which I
think-
think they seem to have got under Virat Kohli's skin in the last series in
I
India.
think you'll find that the next time Virat Kohli plays, he'll be very different because Virat Kohli is no longer as angry as he used to be. But if you think that somebody gets angry in a competition, then that's a good weapon to use, except that sometimes, very, very few, John McEnroe was one, that they actually play better when they are spurred on.
Yeah.
So for example, Steve Waugh was like that. Steve Waugh liked to pick a fight with people because then it became a one-on-one contest. And that was what he thought brought the best out of him.
Yes.
So nobody ever sled Steve Waugh.
Yep.
Because that actually helped him. If you sled Steve Waugh, it helped him. So he would come in and there would be silence around the pitch. Because you're not giving him what he wants. So everyone looks at character weaknesses, everyone looks at what's happening. If someone's not getting a run, and there's a former cricketer in the media who said nasty things about him, they might just remind him about that, saying, by the way, I don't think your selectors like you very much, right?
Any sledging incident you're allowed to share on camera, which is interesting?
If it was, then it wouldn't be on camera, right? No, but there are a lot of very clever sledges. There's a lot of very clever sledging. I think there was a batsman. It's an old story told about a player who got stumped, and who tended to get stumped. And someone said, just put a Mars, and he was a little overweight. Someone said, just put a Mars bar down the track and he'll go chasing it.
Yeah.
That's very gentle sledge.
Yes.
But there are some very clever sledges and there are some nasty ones. Luckily, the stump mics aren't always up, so we don't hear them a lot. But I also think it's a topic that is blown out of proportion a little too much. As I said, I don't like sledging.
Yes.
I believe it's cowardly. If I can't win with my skills, then I'm not good enough. So I don't like it very much.
Coming back to the winning way and coming back to some content from that, early in your workshop days, I saw one session where you actually said, "Don't follow the money," and I think this was career advice which you were giving. But now when I look at the millennials, I wonder. I mean, don't follow the money. I mean, why would that be relevant, and why would that be important anymore? Because from a perspective of the millennials today, they don't really believe in that. They just follow the money, right? I mean, so where would you place that piece of advice? Would you modify it in the
Alan Border
context?
said that first, or at least it's attributed to him. He said, take care of the runs and the dollars would take care of themselves.
Sure.
And I think it's pretty sound advice. And personally, I don't find anything wrong with money as long as it gives you self-worth. It values the work that you do. But yeah, you shouldn't be chasing money all the time. And recently we were at an IT company, and obviously this generation, the Gen Y as they call it, we were talking to them about culture in the organization and the kind of job fulfillment that you get and stuff like that. And one of these kids just perked up and said, finally it's all about the package. So I guess that works for them because they are a different generation. Our generation always saved money, right? So you decided what you had to save, and then that's how you decided how much to spend. These people now live off EMIs, and so their whole life revolves around managing the EMIs. And so your salary has to be such that your EMI is up to whatever, 30% or something or the other. So that's the whole game. It's a different
big HR
generation.
thing these days. That the HR head has to understand how to manage EMIs because that's what the employees are doing all the time. But sometimes when you're chasing the income, I mean, you don't want to be quitting jobs before your visiting cards are printed, right?
Sure.
And that can happen in IT companies sometimes. And if you look at a CV that has change job, 4 jobs in 2 years, then slowly you're reaching a stage where no one's going to give you a job, saying, why would I give this person a job if he's only going to be with me for 6 months? But on another account, I always believe that at the peak of your career or as you're growing, you take strongly professional decisions. You take decisions that are best for you, for your career, for your learning, for advancement. And you only take the financial decisions towards the tail end of your career. And I've yet to meet somebody who's pursued excellence, who's become the very best at his or her profession, who's short of money. But the quest for money makes you do things that you otherwise would not do, and that might cause you to regret cause you a lot of regret afterwards.
Sure.
And while, I mean, people like living on the edge, we don't. But I would strongly advise all young people to practice excellence. You know, excellence has a sworn enemy in India. The word is jugaad. It's the sworn enemy of excellence. You practice jugaad, you're on a road to nowhere, really, because you're thinking of the next 2 days, 3 days, 6 months. You're not thinking beyond that. You're just trying to cut corners somewhere. You practice excellence. It's a long-term thing. So that's that advice I would still give people, that India is the best place in the world to be a young man or woman today wanting to make a career. There's never been a better time to be Indian. So what are you worried about a few % here and there in a salary check? It'll come. Always make money come to you. Never go to money. Always make it come to you. Let it come and knock on your door and you say, right, do I want you, do I not want you? And then the more will come your way. It's funny, every time I've taken a finance-based decision rather than a professional decision, it hasn't happened. I don't know why. It happened a few months back. I said, this looks like easy money, let me do it. It didn't happen. So maybe there's a message there somewhere.
Interesting. There's a very interesting clip. It's a long clip, but I think there's a lot of stuff in this which actually is very, very, very inspirational. In a sense, when I show this clip, I don't need to ask a question, Harsha. You know, you're answering a lot of it.
Now?
But I want you to elaborate further on this clip, on this next clip.
And yet you find that excellence is not about talent alone. In fact, a major, major part of excellence has nothing to do with talent. And in course of time, once you go beyond a certain level, ability or talent is the most useless virtue to possess. It's what you do with that talent that matters. And that's why he used a word, Mukesh used a word that I love, attitude. Beyond a point, it is attitude that counts for far, 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 far more than talent. Because talent breeds an ego. And talent never solves problems beyond a point. And I was fascinated by something that Sandy Gordon said when we were doing a program together. Because I had seen a lot of young cricketers, extremely talented, who the moment they faced a roadblock did not know what to do. Because they had never had to struggle to succeed. They always used their talent to succeed. And Vinod Kambli is an example of that. The moment Courtney Walsh bounced him in Bombay, he was 22 years old. Was he? Yeah, he was 22 years old then. In 1994, he was 22 years old. Didn't know what to do, did not play a test match after that. His last test match was when he was 22 years old. Just did not know how to play the bouncing ball because talent had solved everything for him before. In the Australian Army, when they are, and this is something that doesn't come from sport, but it's something a sports scientist told me, that when they're building an elite core team, they look at your career record, your track record, and if you've never failed, they don't pick you. They don't pick you because they say, if this man experiences failure, will he know what to do? They pick people who failed and bounced back. And that is where your attitude comes through. And, I mean, let's look at excellence. What is excellence about? It's about being in the top 10% in your profession. I mean, I know I'm talking to people who want to be in the top 1%, but there are a lot of ordinary people around us around. So let's say top 10%. Can talent is talent important when you get to be in the top 10%? I mean, everybody in the top 10% will have the same talent, right? So what's your USP? It's what you do with the talent that counts. And unfortunately in our sport, and I think in India as a nation, we're dazzled by talent a great deal. I have found that beyond a certain time in sport, as indeed in broadcasting, that your work ethic and your attitude counts from far, far more than talent. I mean, Tendulkar is a prime example. The moment you say Tendulkar, if I asked you to, if you had one of those things that talk show hosts do, I'll give you a word and you give me a connecting word in one word. You say Tendulkar, you'll say talent, right? He played 55 games as a 14-year-old without a break. 55 days. He'd practice for 2 hours, play a game, practice 2 hours, fall asleep on the dining table. And do that 55 days in a row. That's attitude. You know, we think, and this is something we talk about in our corporate lectures as well, where we advise against talent. When Tendulkar was born, it wasn't that this nurse picked him up and said, here, Mrs. Tendulkar, here's 70 hundreds for you. Yeah? It isn't Tendulkar's talent that's produced 70 hundreds. It's his work ethic, It's his attitude, and more than anything else, when you reach the top, it's his passion to perform. And that counts for far more. The attitude and the passion counts for far, 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 far more than ability. Ability opens the first door. It might open the second door. It's not going to open the last door for you. Because the guy who's bowling the ball at you has got equal ability as you. He's not going to run up to bowl and say, "Oh, sorry, you're a genius. Sorry, I'll give you a simple ball." Which is what India's bowlers did in 1948 when they went to Australia. They were so much in awe that they said, "We are going to bowl to Bradman."
And they wanted to be the bowler that bowled the ball that got Bradman his record. How are we going to get him out?
Yeah, exactly.
It was an easy one for us. We talk about that a lot in our corporate program. So actually all that you heard there was something I picked out of what we do on the winning way. Because, I mean, yeah, talent is good. Talent makes you look very nice, but talent doesn't open doors. It was very easy for me to relate to that because, I mean, I went to IIM Ahmedabad and I looked around and I saw talent of all kinds over there. And as one of my friends told me once, one of my friends came and knocked on the door at midnight. He just knocked on the door, one of my friends from Hyderabad. Knocked on the door and came and sat on my bed and wouldn't talk to me. So I said, "Kya hua?" He said, "Apne ko kaisa admission mili yahan pe?" Because everybody around was that good. And I said, if talent is the name of the game in life, I got no chance, man. But it's what you do with the talent that matters. You work your backside off, you take every chance that you get. It becomes a way of life, and I've been very lucky that every time it seems that I'm moving away from the work ethic is God principle, I've got somebody at home who pushes me back. So from that point of view, yeah, talent is okay up to a point, but if talent is all you got, you're a very poor man.
And just as an exercise, everybody can kind of look back and think of people in your school or college who were like absolutely brilliant, right? There were many people like that, and you thought, oh, this person's going to really go a long way. And then you see them after 20 years, and not all of them are really doing that well. And on the other hand, there are lots of surprises. People who you didn't think were so great have done exceptionally well, and a lot of it has to do with attitude. This clip that you showed is quite old now. Yeah. But, today's world is far more volatile.
Yes.
Too much disruption happening around, and you require far more than your functional skills.
So how would you update?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so people are actually
this?
questioning what a skill is, because it's not okay to know how to write software or know some financial package and things like that. You should also be resilient, because there's so much failure happening around. You should be able to handle pressure. You should be an optimist. You should know how to work in a team. There are many, many such challenges, and so people are saying that these are also skills that one must kind of, when interviews are done, are you testing people on these? Because it is very important. And when you're writing your CV, are you saying that, I'm this kind of a person? Because that is going to make a difference.
We talk a lot about bone china players. Look very nice, dazzling, plays a gorgeous cover drive, looks beautiful, bone china, you put it in the crockery. One fall and it breaks, right? Are you bone china people? Can you handle defeat? Because she said the word in Indian business today is VUCA, right? So can you live in a world that is changing overnight almost? Suddenly product categories are being wiped out, everything is suddenly going, and you wake up in the morning and say, this is the world that I lived in yesterday, but can I still survive in that world? So these are the skills that are increasingly coming through. And if talent is all you've got about that much. But that is what we ask, is do you possess resilience? Do you possess optimism? Do you possess all these things? Otherwise, it's not much good.
And like he talked about Sandy Gordon saying, we wouldn't pick a person who has never failed. First of all, there is hardly anybody who hasn't failed. So if somebody says, I haven't failed, either he doesn't want to address the issue or hasn't learned anything from failure, really, to talk about. But you find now, with so many startups around, CEOs say that even if it's a failed startup, it doesn't mean that the entrepreneur has failed. The entrepreneur has learned hell of a lot. And they value such people, rather than somebody who has not done really anything. It's better that you tried and failed, because you learned in the process. So people are actually valuing people like this.
So Anita, you are the one primarily responsible, from what I understand, to create and the content for the winning way. How did you go about doing it? I mean, he's got the stories, but somebody needs to take it out of his head. And how do you, was there a discipline you formed? Would you chat with him every evening and say, so what happened today? How did you do this? How did you collect the stories? How did you create the content?
No, he looks at the sport end and I look at the corporate end.
Sure.
And I keep my eyes and ears open for what's happening in the corporate world. And so obviously my early experience in account planning helped me. We did so many new business pitches and stuff like that. You remember? So
I do.
So all that, you follow so many sectors and things like that. And in the last few years, I've actually started India's first learning library for managers. It's called Biz Pandits. And so I speak to a lot of industry leaders. And so I come to know, I keep track of current issues in corporate life.
Sure.
So we keep building. So we actually started off as a 20-minute presentation in 2001. And now we do workshops even up to a day. So that's how, we keep talking about it. There's no escape at home. Everybody's talking about sport.
Yes.
Our boys are also some way related in sport.
Yes.
Related to sport. So we discuss it all the time and then we kind of see what is the fit. We never stretch so much that, if there's no parallel, then we kind of talk about it. But there are many parallels. Sure. And as we move around and we take the winning way to so many companies and learn more and more, we kind of, content gets created in a way.
Well, the sport is different from, say, cinema. Cinema is scripted.
Yes.
There's glorious climax where the hero does something dramatic. The hero does something dramatic because the scriptwriter has written that in the script the hero will do something dramatic.
Yes.
If he doesn't, they'll keep shooting till he does.
Yeah.
Whereas in sport, it is all very real. So what you learn from watching sport is no different from what you learn when you're making cement, or you're building a huge project, or you're making chocolates. Because even that is real. Everything in sport is real. And so we say that cinema is an escape from reality, whereas sport is an escape into reality. You escape from what you're doing, but you're escaping into a real world. If someone misses, today there was the Caribbean Premier League final.
Yes.
22 to get off 2 overs, a bowler concedes 22. That's real. You cannot say, वो क्या है वो थोड़ा reshoot करते हैं. 22 के बदले ना 8 दे देते हैं. You can't do that. Because it is real. So what you have learned from a bowler's last over failure is absolutely real. What we learn, our failures are real, aren't they, in life? All of us have failed in life. All our failures are real. We can't run away from them. So sport is a wonderful illustration of what happens in life because sport is real.
Yeah.
And sport is dramatic. But sometimes you only see the dramatic bits. You don't see what goes into the making of the dramatic bit. That's what some of us talk about. That's what we talk about. But sport is real. And that is the greatest thing about sport.
It's great.
If you miss a penalty in a World Cup final, it's happened before, right? People have missed penalties in a World Cup final. People have missed penalties in a cup final. And they've got to live with it for the next 10 years. But you've got to live with that and come back. So that is why we talk about sport. Sport is one of the few positive forces left in our lives, right, in the world. So, yeah.
Couple of questions which is current in Sri Lanka, which is related to the Sri Lankan cricket team. Obviously, all of us around the world have seen Sri Lankan cricket teams which have competed very, very strongly. And in fact, has been in the finals 2007, 2011, T20 finals 2009, I think 2012.
Yeah.
Won in 2012. But what's happening with the current cricket team is a matter of disquiet and concern for a lot of people. Especially, obviously, the people of Sri Lanka are really, really wondering what next. So I have a question in that context. In one of my chat-athons earlier with Muttaya Muralidharan, he spoke very highly of Mahela Jayawardene. And he said Mahela was a leader of men. And what was different about him was that even when he was not the captain, he was a go-to guy when the team was under duress. And what he did even when he was not the captain was that he assiduously worked to build a culture of winning in the team. Do you see part of the problem that Sri Lanka cricket is currently facing is one of lack of leadership? And how important is this culture of leadership and the leader being a very important cog in the wheel in an overall corporate sense? So I have two questions for you here.
the lack of leadership comes about because there are too many people, too many leaders around. I think the other day we were in Pallikeli, and someone threw a stat saying there have only been 20 Sri Lankan captains in one-day international cricket. 5 of them were on the field. The 5 former captains on the field at that time. So who is your leader? Who is a player looking up to and saying, oh, sorry, he's not captain today, that was yesterday. Oh, sorry, he's not captain, that was last week. Oh, he might be captain tomorrow. So who does a player look up to? You need continuity in leadership. All turnarounds happen with continuity in leadership. But this thing of a team in transition is a tricky one. A lot of teams use in transition as an excuse for not doing well. Everybody is in transition. Sri Lanka is in transition. Yeah. When a series of great players go at one time, Murali went, then Sangakkara went, then Jayawardena went. But who were the backup players for Sri Lanka outside the 3 stars? There was Dilshan, there was Samaravira, a little earlier there was Chaminda Vas, there was Rangana Hera just waiting. These were all quality players just under the greats. Now the greats have gone. It's time for the next generation to come up. It happened in India. Tendulkar went, Rahul Dravid went 2011-12, Lakshman went 2012, Saurav Ganguly went 2008-9, Anil Kumble went 2007-8, Tendulkar went 2013. That is the heart ripped out of you. Sehwag went around the same time, and Sehwag was, if anything, the most dramatic of them all. So the heart had gone out, but the team did come back, right? Because I think there's a culture within the side that exists, and that says, doesn't matter if we lose, but we will play to the best we can, and in every defeat we will get better. And I remember a game that India played in Australia and Adelaide, where India was set 470-80 odd to win in the 4th innings. You don't score those many runs in the 4th innings of a test match. And Virat Kohli said to the team, whatever they score, we will try and chase it down because we want to show that we play to win. We are not going to just try and block and play out a day and a bit, because if we do that, we're going to lose anyway. If you try to save a match, you can either lose or draw. If you try to win a match, a third result comes in, which is the result that you actually want. And India eventually fell short by 40-50 runs, but gee, that lit up the series, and it told everybody, this is a team that wants to win. I didn't see that in the home series in Sri Lanka, because there is talent. Talent doesn't understand geographical limits. Talent is everywhere. You go and play cricket in Papua New Guinea, you'll find talent in Papua New Guinea. You go and play cricket on the Arctic Circle, you'll find talent over there. It is what you do with the talent that matters. And when a whole generation goes away, then everyone else has to step up. And I don't know who that step-up person in Sri Lankan cricket is. But I also believe that sport is run exactly like a business is run. Tomorrow, if for whatever reason there's a takeover or something happens, and Ultratech, for example, loses its top 5 managers, can you say, sorry, we are a team in transition, so for the next few days we'll drop market share 10% every year? No, you can't. You're not allowed to do that. People have got to rise up. So you know that my people are going to leave. You already have a next level of management that's ready to stand up. Ashwin is not playing here. Jadeja is not playing here. But this is a great opportunity to tell Kuldeep Yadav, listen, this is how the game is played at this level. This is how the game is played at this level. Tomorrow, if Ashwin can't play, I've already got people who've played 15 games. It's how you start creating the second rung that determines how long your transition lies. And that is why I believe eventually the best managed teams become the best teams, and the most loosely egos-driven teams remain ordinary teams. And that's true of corporate life as well.
So do you think people like Mahela Jayawardene and Kumar Sangakkara, etc. should step up to the plate and do
It's
more?
easy for someone from outside to come and say that because you don't know the reality of a country. I hated it as an Indian when people from England and Australia would come and tell us how to run our cricket. And I said, but excuse me, you might not know, right? Yeah. So it's very easy for us to come and say, this is what Sri Lanka should do, this is what Bangladesh should do. We don't know enough to be able to say that. So we rely on the observations that we are saying. We don't know the intricate structure. But what I do know is the best run teams eventually become the best teams.
But at the same time, I think everybody doesn't need to be a designated leader. There are lots of sectors, like in advertising, for example, you have creative people. You have Piyush Pandey, even before he became head of an agency, or before that you had Mohammad Khan, for example. People who, talent wanted to work with.
Yes.
People who wanted to learn how to create advertising, award-winning advertising from them.
Sure.
And more you find, even in technology, you have product people. Not necessarily CEOs, but people who are innovators. In medical research, for example, pharmaceutical research, you have people who are typically called individual contributors because they are not leading teams, but they are leaders in their thought. And because they step up, like you say. So they are attractive to young people and young talent. So that's the thing. You don't have to be a designated leader.
You know, at one of our presentations, someone came back and said, he said, I think I know why you two work together. I said, why? He said, you tell stories, she talks heads. But what you said about Jayawardena is exactly what she just said.
Yeah.
He wasn't captain, but he was the leader.
Yes.
Because people were looking to see what he is saying, what he is doing.
Yes.
He may not want to be saddled with the responsibilities of captain. So there are, in every team, there are designated leaders and there are people you look up to as leaders. Tendulkar was not captain for the last, well, he finished in 2000. He was never captain after 2000.
Of course.
Where do you think the young kids were looking up to? So if they have an issue, they're still going and talking to him. He's not running the side, he's not setting the field, but he's still in some aspects a leader in the side.
Sure.
There's still in some aspects Rahul Dravid is a leader in the side. So you may not be a designated leader, but there are still leaders. And I look around at Sri Lankan side, I look around, see Bangladesh is coming up, because there's a whole core group of players who are coming up. You look around Pakistan side, for example, you look around England, who are the leaders within the side?
Yeah.
There is one captain, who are the other leaders within the side?
Yeah.
Virat Kohli is a leader, but Dhoni is still the leader. So people are looking up to Dhoni.
He'll always be my captain.
Correct?
Yeah.
So Dhoni is still there. And look how beautifully Dhoni has given up the captaincy.
Yes.
He's still making bowling changes sometimes. He's still setting the field sometimes. But it's Kohli who's seen to be doing it, but Dhoni is actually doing that. So the transition is happening beautifully.
Yes.
He's not trying to encroach into someone's territory. Transition leadership also is critical in preventing these teams in transition. You can't have a captain who says we are losing and therefore I will quit the captaincy.
One question related to egos. Now, obviously, when you talk of cricket teams, I mean, Indian team or any other team, when the team does really well, you tend to have really big performers. And even in corporate sector, that tends to happen that you have such big heavyweights in the team, getting all of them to work together becomes a challenge. So what are the sporting learnings? Are there any interesting learnings with relating to managing egos and getting everyone? I mean, it's the opposite question to what I asked previously related to leaders. But
one of the things we often ask is, if you're captain of the West Indies in the 80s or 90s, if you're captain of Australia around the turn of the century, it must have been very easy to be captain, right? Because everyone knows what to do. But within that side are some outstanding performers. All outstanding performers have an ego.
Yep.
Sometimes I think having an ego up to a point actually gives you the self-belief and the confidence to weather the opposition. Because you can say, I am somebody, tu kya kara, main bhi koi hu. But if ego goes beyond that, it becomes disruptive. But within a side, there are now 10 egos, right? For all they know, the captain has an ego of his own. So there's 11 egos in the side. It's not about where first slip should be, but it's about the 10 egos playing for each other. And that is why man manager is so important in sport, as in business.
Actually, that is the leader's job, to understand people and to see what works for them. How do you channelize your energies and your ego into doing something positive for the team? Most of the time, people who have egos are also hugely talented, right? How do you make it work for the team? And again, saying what he said, Michael Holding told us that, Clive Lloyd had such a good team, but yet he took the effort to understand every player. And he wanted to earn the respect of every player. That's why people respected him, and he also respected players. And he got them to work as a team.
If you're a leader with an ego, you will say, you know what, I'm the leader, this is what I say. And the people will say, yeah, okay, man. Or you can say, I'm the leader, you are going to win me matches. How can I make you feel great about being in my team? It's a completely different setup. And you'll find that the best leaders will get the best out of their match winners because, as she said, they take the trouble to respect their teammates. And that is what great teams are built around. And we were very lucky in India. I mean, around the turn of the century, you had a magnificent group of people coming up. They all grew up together. But by 2003-04, when India were playing some of the best cricket, you had Sehwag, Dravid, Lakshman, Ganguly, Tendulkar, Kumble, Zahir Khan was coming up, Srinath was maybe just on the way out. You had magnificent people. So why did India do well? It is because one ego, the egos were there, mind you. Of course Rahul Dravid has an ego. Of course VVS Lakshman has an ego. We talk about Ganguly and Kumble and the others. But the egos, one ego didn't come in the way of the other ego performing because of respect for each other.
Sure.
And I think that is the climate that the leader creates.
And they were all team players. They didn't come and disrupt the team. They all worked for the good of the team. That is very important because there's no point being very talented if you cannot work in a team. Like I said earlier, that is a skill that you just need to have. And sometimes people are very selfish and people are very insecure and so they are not great team players. That is very important.
By the way, people with large egos are also very insecure. People with large egos are very insecure people because they've seen what they had and they don't want to lose it. So handling egos is also a matter of handling insecurity. And in high-level sport, there is so much insecurity because that is the only thing you're good at. And if you don't do that, oops, so what am I doing tomorrow morning? I'm standing at the airport, no one's looking at me, thinking, hey, it's got drop kiya hai.
Yep.
So handling insecurities is such a big part of managing teams. And I don't know if we do that enough with managers. Do we understand the insecurities that managers are going through? Because tomorrow the manager's thinking, if I get sacked, my EMIs are not getting sacked, then what happens to me? So I think at the core of all sport is understanding people. And at the core of all great leadership in sport is understanding people. Strategy is okay, it's one part of. It's a nice word, it makes for good conferences. It makes for very stylish discussion. We're talking about strategy. Strategy is all right. I mean, everyone got strategy, right? It's not that your strategy is lesser than mine or mine's lesser than yours or hers is so great that I could never have thought of it. There are intelligent people everywhere. No? If you say, you know what, my company's got a great strategy, it doesn't mean the other guys are all buffoons over there. They also have great strategy, right? But it's what you do. It's about handling people that eventually determines. Too much gyan came. No?
IPL. I mean, I know when IPL started, there was a school of thought which said, there goes cricket. There was a school of thought which said...
It was there comes cricket.
In the sense, there goes cricket, what I meant was everyone knew cricket as a 5-day game. Money was there, but, this kind of seemed like an explosion happening. And there were periods of time when some of those fears seemed justified. There was a few scams which happened, and then everyone pinpointed that one single thing called IPL and blamed it. But now in the context of 5, 7, 8, 9 years, it looks like a concept which has created tremendous value virtually out of nothing, and all credit to the gentleman who thought up of the idea and all of the others who actually sustained it. And it does also seem, like as if IPL has actually generated genuine talent for the game. The fielding standards have improved. And then there's an IPL in India, but now, just like you mentioned, the Caribbean Premier League just got over last night. The Big Bash is big in Australia. So, I mean, how do you define that phenomenon? In the sense, it's a completely new format, completely seemingly money-centric, but seems to have also done great stuff for the game of cricket as well. Would you agree with the assessment?
If your market wants a snazzy looking 2-seater that gives you 40 kilometers to the litre, and you say, right, that's what you want, but here is a 10-seater truck that gives you 4 kilometers to the litre, that is what real transport is, and that is what you must buy. What's the kid going to do? He'll buy it because he's got no choice, but the moment someone offers a snazzy 2-seater that gives 40 kilometers to the litre, he'll say, yeah, that's what I want, right? So a product offering, as we all know in advertising, by the way, I also spent 2 years in advertising. As all the business people know here, you have to have a product that appeals to your market. Otherwise, it's not much good having a product. And everything changes with passage of time. I mean, today there's no one in the watch industry here, no? We've got 5 watches in the house that people have gifted us, and I tell children, you've got a really nice watch at home, do you want a watch? And he said, a watch? For what? And I said, a watch because it tells time. He said, my phone tells time. So there's no point, I mean, product categories are going out. This was just one form of the game that needed to get modernized. It's not that Test cricket was only noble and IPL was only evil, or that IPL is only contemporary and Test cricket is all hopeless. But each has qualities that are nice and not so nice. This was just very contemporary, very snazzy. And I think somebody in business has to ask themselves, what industry are we in? Is cricket in the industry of cricket? Or is cricket in the overall industry of entertainment?
Yep.
And if cricket's in the industry of entertainment, do you have movies that run for 5 days without a result? Can you imagine sitting in a cinema theatre for 5 days and at the end not knowing the hero gets a heroine in the end?
Yep.
Whereas you want to, so a 3-hour sport was just made for the times. So
Also, a lot of people who say that, you know, this is only about money and things like that. First of all, money only comes to a product that's well designed and marketed well. And that's why the money has come in. But the people who say that, you know, test cricket is the real thing are really people from our generation or older. The younger generation doesn't seem to say that. For them, IPL is the real thing.
But has it improved cricket?
what is cricket? Is cricket batting for a day and a half to save a match, which is damn tough to do? Or is cricket saying, I need 18 to score from 6 balls, packed house, final of a tournament? Is that easy to do? So there are different things that are all difficult to do. But over the course of time, we have said that batting for a day and a half to save a test match is difficult. But also that is the only thing that is difficult. And the guy saying, look man, 14 to score of 3 balls, right? I'm having to go 6-6-4 or 6-4-4 to win the title. You think it's easy? 6-4-4 and 3 balls to win a game? It's a different skill. It's a different kind of difficulty that you're very good at. And so you cannot undermine that difficulty because we have got used to something being... So if making Mughal-e-Azam was difficult, is telling an entire product story in 20 seconds easy? I've only got 20 seconds because the moment I go into 22 seconds, I'm in a 30-second slot that costs me 1/3 more money, so my ad budget is all gone. Is telling an entire story in 10 seconds easy to do? If you had 90 seconds, everybody would do it, right? So I think it's like that there are levels of difficulty to everything. Because we've all grown up believing something was great, you think A.B. de Villiers playing a reverse lap shot to Dale Steyn bowling at 140 kilometers an hour and changing the shot at the last minute and playing it there is easy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
No. So Gavaskar batting against 4 fast bowlers and battling them with half broken fingers was difficult. This is also difficult, but in a different way.
See what it's done to the game. Look at the opportunity.
Sure.
Not only for young Indian players, but for international stars, for players from, let's say, Bangladesh or Afghanistan, and the whole ecosystem that it's created. Trainers, physiotherapists, coaches, the whole thing. It's only been good for the game, I think.
No, absolutely.
And to be fair, more people can be good over half an hour than can be good over 5 days. Let's be honest. It's easier to be good over half an hour than to be good over 5 days.
Sure.
And so more and more people are getting in. There was a time when Indian cricket had a lot of money. 16 people made money out of that. 18 people might have made money if they were on contracts. 100 plus people are making money out of the IPL. Today there's the Karnataka Premier League, the Tamil Nadu Premier League, there's a Jharkhand Premier League, where you're not making in crores, but there are players who are making 50-60,000. There's some people who are making 4-5 lakhs, but they're making 4-5 lakhs in something they love doing, and the scouts are watching them. So there is this player who's seen in the Tamil Nadu Premier League. He must have been on 50,000 rupees. And people said, gee man, this kid is different. He got a 3.2 crore contract in the IPL. So all of a sudden you're getting more and more people into the game. And it's moving with the times. I don't know how long it'll last. It's still a child. The IPL is a child. T20 is a child. The 90-minute football game has survived over the years, and you know that it can. Cricket is the only sport that's played across 3 formats. Football is not played across 3 formats. There's a futsal, which is 6-a-side, 7-a-side, played on a small ground that's not taken off. But cricket is the only sport that's played over so many formats. So we'll have to wait and see whether T20 becomes boring. So we'll wait and see. Already the scores of 220, 200, 220 in a T20 game, and we're not going, wow, 200. So already we're getting immune to 200 scores. So let's see how long T20 lasts. I don't know. People are saying, will there be a T10? Well, I don't know if there'll be a T10. Will there be a 5-over game? We already have a 5-over game.
Sure.
Will cricket become a 1-over game? We already used to have a 1-over game to resolve a tie. So you don't know where it's going. Eventually it's what the public wants.
Harsha, it's been 25 years, 92, if I hear the word 92 is when you started doing commentary. It's been 25 years you've been in cricket. I mean,
First test match was in 1984.
But the commentary was 84?
That was on Doordarshan, where you got one game a year.
Wow. Okay. So it's longer. It's longer. So I mean, if you were to,
I'm not a hero, and I don't have to say how old.
No,
I don't have to hide how old I am.
The thing is, in these so many years of your cricket, if I were to actually challenge you and say, tell me some top 3-4 top moments which you probably cherish and really remember, would you be able to,
Tell you 100. I could tell you 100. Okay. I could tell you 100 moments that one man made. One man made 100 international hundreds. To be watching the game in an era when Tendulkar, Dravid, Kumble, Lakshman, Ganguly are playing for your country, and the growth of that Indian team actually coincided with the kind of opportunities I was getting in television. So to be able to watch Tendulkar for a living, anyone else wants to trade that job? So extraordinary luck. I mean, you see so many things, but there are 2 or 3 incidents that stand out because performances come and go, and performances are memorable. Watching Tendulkar in '98 was incredible. Watching Tendulkar in 2009-10 was just as incredible. What did Sehwag do?
Absolutely.
Were you allowed to bat like Sehwag? I mean, when Sehwag came, we were like, batting hoti hai. But what did Sehwag end up doing? Your top 2 of the top 4 scores in India, 3 are Sehwags. Not the guys who blocked and played classical 5-day cricket, but someone who stood where he was and threw his bat at the ball, made 2 triple hundreds. So watching that game evolve and change has been fantastic. But to see, was back in 99, a stadium in Chennai giving a standing ovation on a victory lap to a Pakistan team in India. It just told me, hang on, sport is different, man. Let's leave sport as it is. To see the scenes at the 2011 World Cup that India won was something that will never go away. So those are scenes that you always remember. To see a young Indian team under Dhoni winning the 2007 World T20 was wow. I'm sure in this country,
kind of reception they got in Mumbai, amazing.
In this country, 1996 Sri Lanka winning the World Cup was, it was just something else. So yeah, over the years, 25, 30 years, watching things like that has been amazing. To see players come and go, to see players come and defy the go to stay on. Some players have multi-stage rockets. There's a stage 1 takeoff, and then there's stage 2 takeoff, and a stage 3 takeoff. To see those players, when you think these players are finished and they come back and say, you know what, actually I'm not.
Yep.
You see character in people. You see people who you thought would make great cricketers, but who had flaws in character which prevented them from becoming the players that they could become. Pakistan had 2 great bowlers and just lost them overnight for 5 years. Mohammad Asif and Mohammad Amir were once in a generation bowlers, and you just lost them for 5 years because of flaws in character. So sport also throws up all that. Sport is not just bat versus ball. I get a lot of people coming and telling me, you know what, my children keep all the stats. My children know all the stats. And I say, yeah, that's good because they know about 3% of sport.
Yep.
Sport is about character, it's about emotion, it's about all that, all happening in real life.
Harshad,
real time.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll tell you, there are a few people who in the last 4-5 years have quit the sport of cricket because of deep cynicism, because of beliefs that matches are thrown, because of beliefs that things are fixed, because of beliefs that then become strongly entrenched as something they actually strongly subscribe to. That actually speaking, this whole thing is all pre-planned. In 2011 when India beat Sri Lanka, there was actually a story here doing the rounds that somebody had sent a messenger in a drinking cart to tell India to lose, to tell Sri Lanka to lose so that India would win. Similarly, just now the toss that happened in the T20, right?
It's a very good example actually. I'll tell you about the toss.
The toss, it seems pretty clear that actually Sri Lanka had won the toss, but somehow the toss was given to India. So there is a certain set of things which cause cynicism and which cause people to go away from the game thinking, I'm not so sure whether this game is all honest and truthful. But when I hear you, obviously, and when I see you, it's all the positivity comes out and you feel that you need to believe.
Is there anything purer than religion? Is there anything purer than religion for a lot of us? Some of the biggest scandals come out of religion, right? So can we be cynical about religion? And say, you know what, religion is actually the storehouse of those kind of people. So religion is actually all false and fake and I'll give up religion. It's what you see in religion that matters, right? In sport, you cannot get 100 saints playing sport. Just as there are no 100 saints in people who make cement, or 100 saints in people who run hotels, or 100 saints in people who run advertising agencies. You will always find good people and bad people. In sport, there are good people and bad people. In everything in life, there are good people and bad people. So, and nothing is 100% good or nothing is 100% bad. So there are good and there are bad. If sport is more bad than good, then I'm wasting my time. We're all wasting our time. I mean, here we are making a profession, writing books that sell 100,000 copies, saying this is what you learn from sport. But if sport is only bad, then what is there to learn from it? No. One of the problems over the last 4 or 5 years is that the media has ceded its need to be truthful. There was a time when in the media you needed to be truthful. The media has given up the need to be truthful. And a new medium has emerged called WhatsApp. WhatsApp is as much of a medium as television without the responsibility of being truthful. And a lot of the silliest things going around are things that a lot of very well qualified people are passing on WhatsApp without actually believing in them, but just passing them on. So you are disseminators of news without the responsibility of being part of the news. And that is why a lot of nonsense gets spread. I mean, is there not nonsense in stock markets? Is there not?
Stop investing, do you?
You stop investing in equities? So there is good and bad everywhere. If there was only good, we wouldn't have life. So there's good and bad everywhere. You'll hear these stories. Largely, you will hear these stories by people who are unwilling to accept that their team wasn't good enough to win. The moment you say that 11 players from one side played 11 players from the other side, and the better set of 11 players won, then you will not feel the need to spread these stories. But if you say, my team could not have lost, then you're undermining the team that has won, and so you're trying to create these stories around. And I think eventually, as we discovered with the toss, as we discovered with the toss in that India-Sri Lanka game, you couldn't say if the match referee had said heads or tails. As it turns out, the ICC has now gone through the footage. The match referee did indeed say heads. India did indeed win the toss. The captain, the toss presenter did indeed interview the right captain. The match referee was looking a little upset because the captain has to inform him first whether he's batting or bowling and then go there. So it's a very easy story to spread. When I was in Australia at the 2015 World Cup, I got a forward that had actually been printed, had appeared on a news channel after the first 5 or 6 games, saying, see, we have got this email, these are what the results are going to be, and see, the first 5 or 6 games have gone by these results, so every single game in the World Cup is fixed. Gee, if everything in the game will be fixed, then you'd have only boys or only girls being born, right?
Yep.
So I said, okay, let's see, let's not, there are lots of idiots spreading these stories, and there are a lot of gullible people who are accepting these stories. So I actually sat down one afternoon, because cricket gives you a lot of time on off days. And I worked out every single result that this match fixing sheet was supposed to have produced, with one news channel actually put out. And based on that, the quarterfinal result that was said, the quarterfinal match could not have happened. Because if all those results had happened, those two teams would not have met each other in the quarterfinal. But being serious and analyzing is a waste of time, no, sometimes. So, it's not good for conspiracy theory. So there will always be conspiracy theory. Did 9/11 happen? Did planes go into the World Trade Center? There will always be conspiracy theories. Sport is far, far, far more good than bad, and is far, far more good than almost everything else in society today.
That's great.
See, they should give me the job of being PRO for sport.
You know, before we
it also helps us to do more sessions of the winning way.
You already have the best job, so why would you want something else?
Before we end, couple of last questions. Coming back to your partnership, I'm also told by reliable sources that
I know the reliable source is. It's you trying to put it under reliable source.
But it is a very reliable source. I'm told by a very reliable source, and I'm sure this source is not the source you imagine it to be. Actually, your dad told you that the best thing that happened to you out of IIMA was Anita.
He told me what I knew.
Right? So, I mean, so it's very interesting. Tell me a little bit more about your partnership, because obviously it seems to have been a superb partnership, and we wish you all the absolute best in the future, and we want more and more winning ways. There's Winning Way 1 and there's a Winning Way 2. Both lovely books full of great metaphors of how sport is meaningful for management and sport is meaningful for life.
I'll let you tell the partnership story. All I'll tell you about the Winning Way and Winning Way 2.0 is we wrote a management book, not a sport book, but we wrote a book that was written in simple language for people to read. A lot of management books are written to confuse people so they don't understand a word of what they're reading, but it sounds very stylish.
Yeah.
So this was just written very simple language, priced, as someone told me, at the price of a dairy milk. At the price of a slab of a dairy milk. So it was... But the partnerships, yeah, she's worked harder at the partnership than I have.
Yeah, it's been a great partnership. And like you said earlier, it's really been a very equal partnership. And it's been based on, I think, trust and respect for each other. So those really are the things that we value. Each one values what the other person brings to the table. And our roles are very clear-cut. You know, what he brings to the table, and he is the storyteller, like I always like to say. He's the one who brings credibility. I'm more the backbone. So I develop the content, and I work with the clients, and I drive the business. And that's how it works.
I think she's the cement, I'm the laminate. But trust is important, I think.
Yeah.
I think a lot of relationships flounder because of trust and because of a lack of respect for each other. And it's also very, very important that your children growing up realize that there is respect for both parents. I'm not sure in a lot of families, I really shouldn't be saying that because I don't know a lot of other families, but I hope that the children growing up are aware that each of the two parents are just as intelligent, are just as accomplished, and are just as important to the growing up. So in our life, yes, trust and respect has been the bedrock, but it's been easier for me to do it because it's easier to respect. No, but honestly, it's been great fun. I couldn't have done half the things that I did.
It's been challenging, but it's been very unusual and very interesting, personally and professionally, both. The opportunities that we've got have been amazing, but there have been challenges because it's a very unusual lifestyle, like I said.
It's sounding a little too mushy. Real fast, yeah.
No, I can tell you it's quite real and interesting as well. Harsha, just a last question. Obviously, cricket is at the center of everything both of you guys do. What's the future looking like? I mean, it's a bit of a... I'm asking you to do a little bit of crystal ball gazing, and it's never easy to do crystal ball gazing because one phenomenon can come and change everything completely. But how do you see the next? Because, you know, one of the other things is as a cricketer, you know, there's a retirement age. As a commentator, you can actually continue as long as your passion's there.
Depends. Sometimes people don't like you and you have to take a break.
I won't go into that space absolutely
no,
at
that's
all.
okay. That's okay. Little things happen in everybody's life, but yes, you have no idea where the game is headed. Just last week, we had a 5-year IPL deal, television rights and digital rights deal for $2.55 billion. How many people would have guessed 5 years ago, knowing the IPL is so big, that it's going to be a $2.5 billion deal? 55 crores paid for every single match. Add to that the sponsorship money for the IPL, add to that the Indian team sponsorship money. We are looking at 16,000 crores, that's 3,500 crores for the IPL alone. We're looking at about 8,000 crores a year revenue. How many industries in India have an 8,000 crore a year revenue? So it's an industry. You would have thought cricket's going to go there. Who would have thought that in the US, they would be saying, in the US and Europe, they would be saying, you know what, Facebook bid 3,900 crores for digital rights in one sport in one country. So I don't know where it's going. What I do know is that cricket will have to stay humble, that cricket will always have to stay relevant to the society that cricket resides in, and be very, very thankful to and respectful of the fans that keep cricket going. The moment you start getting arrogant about the fans, then there is a problem, because without fans, there is no sport. But see where the world is headed. Chess has become smaller. All the great sports of our time are played over 2-3 hours. Occasionally a tennis match will go to 5.5 hours. Football, which is the biggest sport in the world, is played over 90 minutes. One of the greatest sport of all time is run over 9.6 seconds. So you have to know where society is headed, And I think the fact that cricket moved to a 3-hour format gave cricket the fertilizer to grow again, because cricket would have become irrelevant in society if it had not been for the 180-minute game. So I think if cricket has its ears to the ground at all times, then cricket will survive. Media will go into many different ways completely. I see a lot more media being accessed through streaming than through television. Already we have reached a stage in India where sport is the last appointment viewing that is left on Indian television. The news, I mean, the news is a brawl, so there's no point watching it anyway. But there used to be the 9 o'clock serial. If you missed the 9 o'clock serial, it's gone, right? So the 9 o'clock serial told you when you could watch it. Today, you got streaming television. You can watch programs when you want to watch them. Or there's a Facebook Live event going on that stays on a Facebook page. You can watch it later. The only appointment viewing left is sport, because you don't know what's going to happen at the end. But I see a lot more sport watched on streaming. I see a lot more sport watched on mobile devices. Data is finally acquiring the price it should have. And so with data becoming cheaper, more and more people are watching it where they want to watch it. So they don't have to be in front of a television set to watch. They can be in their cars and they're watching sport. So sport is going to where the people are rather than people coming to where the sport is. And I see much more of that happening. I also see the arrogance about selling tickets is virtually gone. You need the person in the ground more than the person in the ground needs you. So you'll find a lot of marketing techniques coming in to get people into stadiums. Maybe a day will come when there'll be no ticket prices at all. No ticket prices, free. Anyone go and watch cricket or go and watch sport. So I see that. I also see a lot of non-cricket sport growing in India. Saina Nehwal has 5 million followers on Twitter. PV Sindhu is making more money per appearance than your top 3 cricketers. Just leave out the top 3 cricketers, sorry. Leave out the top 3 cricketers and PV Sindhu is making more appearance money than any one of those cricketers already. A young girl who plays badminton in one part of India, she's getting up at 4:30 in the morning to go and train, is now reaching that stage. Kabaddi players playing kabaddi for a living, which you wouldn't have imagined 3 years ago. So I'm seeing a lot of non-cricket sport being packaged well enough. Earlier it wasn't packaged well enough. And you had the situation of Indian hockey, which tried its darndest to fail. I've never known a sport try as hard to fail as hockey did. And so this year, there is no hockey league in India. But there is a kabaddi league that's running over 6 months. There's a football league that's running over 5 months. There is, Sindhu plays the Olympic final. Sindhu plays the World Championship final, and more people watch it than a normal cricket match. So there's a lot of changes happening. And therefore, more learnings for the winning way.
Excellent. On that note, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you.